Shot himself in the head.
What was I doing there, viewer? Welcome.
Welcome, Sam. Are you trying to kill yourself or thrill yourself, Sam?
Yeah.
We've got to placate our corporate overload somehow, Sam.
So let's stop talking about what we were talking about, so no one gets sued. That's what we're just going to say.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you.
Let's start recording. Let's do the clappy clap. Let's start talking about this fucking movie. Not that clappy clap, Ross. We've covered that. All right, that'd be a tantalizing Patreon
extensively.
21, 16,
30.
Gives you 40 seconds, Ross.
I can do 30 in 5 seconds. 5 seconds now. Ready? 30. Let's do it. We can do it. I believe in us. Let's go. Not that we've used these files in 7 weeks.
I was just saying, I haven't uploaded them in like.
I know, Dave, and the audio quality is suffering, so please upload it.
I've had a lot on, in fairness, which again we're out of the shadows of the off-air stuff, so let's
keep it light.
Yeah,
everyone, wave your hands around. We're all doing this now. We're all doing this now. Yeah. Well, you see.
Let's. I would like. Let's get on with this movie. I'd like to talk about a potential Discord channel because they just do it live on air, just to really embarrass ourselves when inevitably no one turns up to it.
When there's 4 members, including Sam's alt account.
Guys, I have a lot of faith in the internet to absolutely turn up in the Discord to berate us about our inconsistencies and things that we say that aren't correct.
Yes,
and pronunciation, all of that. I expect there's swathes of people just ready to have a go at us.
I'm not gonna lie, Dave. I'm not gonna lie, Dave. You had me in the first half when you said I've got a lot of faith in the internet.
Yeah, I do have a lot of faith in the internet to be terrible,
to be horrible. Yep.
Yep.
So Discord, Sam, talk us through it.
Well, let's get on. We'll do it. We'll do it in the show. I'll do it. I'll seamlessly drop it in.
Seamlessly.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I do the intro. Give me 1 second.
That's the only thing you do. Dave. That's the only thing you contribute.
The only thing I'll sign off after I've done the intro. Cracking. My dream.
Invite people.
We ready?
Yeah. I'm just going to drop my Discord user. So Sam has it to hand.
I don't have a Discord user. Is that going to be a problem?
No, it's fine. Ross, you need to turn your headphones down.
Oh, fuck you, Sam. Your fucking dictator style instructions.
Yep, that's Sam.
Is there what's a link shortening service? Because Bitly now wants an account. Wow. Shows you last
Bitly wants an account.
I know, weird. There we go.
Well, it's usually pretty easy to get your Discord server verified. So after a bit, we can just apply and get it discord.gg/imaginary pod or imp.
I'll start putting in the show notes after this one. But I'll bring that up. Let's go. Let's do it. We're live. Fuck it, we're live.
Fuck it, let's do it, boys.
40 minutes.
Start the clock.
Let's do this.
We should actually do a countdown. This movie deserves 40 minutes of your time, if that. Start the clock.
Now we're getting sued by Countdown. Fuck.
Start the episode, Dave.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Imaginary Movie Podcast, a podcast where we watch a movie and then we talk about it. My name's David, and I don't have anything funny to say because there was nothing funny in this movie.
Wow, bring in the energy. Woo!
I want to set expectations.
Schindler's List. Would it have killed you to crack a joke?
Let's not be putting this movie up there with Schindler's List, maybe.
Yeah, that's not in the same category. You overreach, Ross. Anyway, my name is Sam, and my favorite war, World War Oscar bait.
And I'm Ross. I thought I had Sam with the aeroplane bit, but it wasn't enough.
2 bait bits. Interesting.
So this week, to my great disappointment and boredom, we watched the 2014 film Unbroken.
And
That's
it's
a movie
almost
that exists.
Can I get my
Davis run out of
piece in here?
words.
So I feel like I know which way the wind is blowing on this one. So let me just say, because I remember because as you guys might agree, with my picks recently, prior to Unbroken, I was on a bit of a hot streak. Color of Money, that other movie you guys liked, can't remember what it was, but there was two. I remember
What
two that I forgot one of.
It was the drumming movie. It was the drumming movie.
Oh, Whiplash.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dave.
Go back.
Which was excellent, I should say.
So I was in a bit of a hot streak, and before
You
watching
got cocky,
this again,
Ross.
yes, exactly, absolutely. Before watching this again, Sam said, "Oh, I'm looking forward to it," and Dave was like, "Not sure," and I was like, "I'm confident you guys will like it." Now, the reason I said that is because I watched this in the cinema. We're talking 7 years ago, and I remember liking it in the cinema. And because of my hubris, I was like, you guys are going to like it. And I'm going to bathe in the self-adulation once again. And then watching it, and I was like, I got about half an hour in, and I was like, oh no. Oh, I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah. Well, the cinema is fucking tricky. The cinema, makes you think. I'm not Sam because he's an inhuman monster, but people who enjoy the cinema, you can go and have a really good cinema experience, and the film can be average, but you build it up in your mind because you had a really good experience at the cinema. This is a thing that happens, Sam, I promise you.
It was a good experience.
Against all of your own personal evidence.
I was at the AMC. It was free refills on both drink and popcorn. And in the comfy seats. Fucking hell. Gorged myself. Fed for 3 days.
You had salt and sugar doing gladiatorial combat throughout your bloodstream, Ross. Of course you were having a good time.
Thank you. But I overshot on this one.
Well, I think.
Sam, defend this movie.
No, I'm not.
He's defending me, not the movie.
The movie. What I'm here to do is say that actually, I don't think this was as bad as Ross you're suggesting. Dave, I think I don't. I think there's a lot of this movie where you're like, all right, okay,
I have a pre-prepared statement when we're ready, Your Honor.
Okay, well, go on then.
I think you're right. Generally, I think this is a bang average movie in most regards. I don't think it's bad in a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good either, but it's not bad. It's kind of like right on that middle line. But this is exactly the sort of movie that is a hard sell for me because it's a masochism movie. It's like, hey, it's like watching The Passion of the Christ. Hey, do you want to watch this guy get beaten up and shot at and whipped for 2 hours? I'm like, well, not really, actually. Like, I would like something other than that, and there isn't anything other than that in this movie.
I mean, I was going to say when you said, Dave, it's not massively fantastic, it's not bad, and I was going to say, but that's sort of like the worst crime for this sort of content that we do, isn't it? Because if it's middle of the road, even if it was bad, we could enjoy talking about it. But because it's so middle of the road, you're like, you know what I mean? Where do you begin?
Right, but that's where, and we're doing Unbroken, by the way. And in this film, after a near fatal plane crash in World War II, Olympian Luis Samperini spends a harrowing 47 days in a raft with 2 fellow crewmen before, and it gets way worse. He's caught by Japanese Navy and sent to a prisoner of war camp and is beaten the shit out of by this sadistic commandant.
So I know this is like the common sort of solution I have, but watching this again, like I feeling like if not even at least a 3-part movie, this could easily have been like a short series, because like the raft thing that takes up a good like 45 minutes to 50 of this like just under 2-hour movie. But it's still a good watch, and you could have ended the movie like as they're saved, end on a cliffhanger, for example, if it's a TV series or something like that. And then you have the middle bit then where he's a POW, like in that jungle sort of area, and then you have the final bit of the war camp. The other thing as well, like I'm going on. I've got other fixes as well, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But
well, let's go through. That's probably a good way of doing it, isn't it? Let's go through those kind of main story beats. But I think this is a biopic, and
Ugh.
I know. But the problem is it doesn't. For me, I didn't know anything about the movie. Never heard of even Zamperini either, which is surprising because we're big kind of like aviation nerds. Yeah, but I think it wasn't until like the very last point of the movie where they were, say, and Zamperini, he lived and he ran in the 1998 Tokyo Olympics, and I was like, oh, it's one of these movies. It's one of these like, we've got the rights to this guy's life, we've got the rights
life
to this
story,
book,
yeah.
and we're going to just create this fantastic, glowing tribute to him, and we're literally going to end on a freeze frame of him looking smiley because he's and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, obviously this guy was very, very courageous and did survive some really, really horrible things.
Yeah.
Also a massive Christian evangelical, but never mind. And like, there's lots of stuff about this guy's life which is interesting. But I think what you end up losing, I think, when you go down that route, is you lose any ability to have like doubt or
objectivity,
texture that actually tells us who this guy is. Because that's what I went away from. I've just watched 2 hours of this man go through some of the most horrific things that I've ever seen in my life, and I have no idea who he is. I don't understand what drives him.
There's no message to this movie, which is we talked about doing like a mini series, didn't we, on the podcast about war movies, and we ultimately didn't do it because we decided it would be too depressing, and also a lot of war movies aren't good. Like, that's a general rule of thumb. Band of Brothers is great, Saving Private Ryan is great. A lot of the rest of them are bad.
And they're also 3 hours. Most of them are like 3 hours long as well.
Exactly,
they've got a noble story to tell.
Yeah, they're designed to keep your dad sat on that sofa for at least 3 hours.
Now we're the dads. I'm the dad now.
You're the dad now. Watching these movies and talking about how accurate the Norden is. We'll circle back to that.
God, yes, love that bit.
But the idea, the biopic, I think, basis of this is a flaw in the way that Hollywood makes these movies. Do you remember the movie Hacksaw Ridge?
No.
Yes. Oh, that was
the Mel Gibson movie, which is kind of exactly like this, except that movie tries to be uplifting and about, people having, the main guy is doesn't want to. He's a pacifist, but he wants to be a medic, and that's the whole thing about the movie. This movie doesn't really have that. This guy doesn't. It's actually a really bland character in the movie. I thought. I don't know whether that's intentional or not, but the trouble is, you've taken a story that is interesting, and I think the book that the book that this is based on is probably fascinating because you're reading like a personal story from history. But when you see it on the screen, it's like, yes, it's very impressive and visually it's quite good and the actors are all fine, but there's not really enough there. Like, the exceptionalism is not there in it, that you want. The exceptionalism is what you want in a movie like this, isn't it? You want to watch someone be the hero, or you want to watch someone make a personal sacrifice. And that's why I said this movie's a bit masochistic in the way that it's not that. Actually, everything that happens to more or less every character in this movie for the whole movie is things that are forced upon them. Even the flashback to seeing Santorini like join the track team and start running, he's made to do it so that he'll stop being bullied. And then he's really good at it and he does all of that. But this character in this movie, I really challenge you to name any decision that he makes that has any real ramification on anything that happens in this movie.
That's a very good point.
And it robs the movie of any sort of like relatability. And I know that sounds daft. We're obviously not in the Pacific for 47 days, but
the only thing that I can think of is maybe his like refusal to bow down to the bird, to this Japanese prison guard. Like, that's maybe the only thing where you think, well, he is quite stoic, isn't he? He stands up. He doesn't say good luck to the guy's new job. There's all these little things, but you're right, completely right though. Like, there isn't enough agency for him, and the motivation of that character, I think, is very strange as well. Like, he's clearly motivated by not wanting to be bullied, and he we get the stuff at the start where he's drinking and he's a bit of a troubled youth, but he finds his calling, as it were, in the Olympics and running, and that in itself is like an interesting story. But we kind of skip over a lot of it. We're not really interested. We're not really interested.
Not relevant. Again, it's the trouble of it being an adaptation of a book that's based on his real life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It kind of pens you into the Olympian thing is really, really interesting. And if the end of this movie was him running from one place to another, I kind of know that's a really basic way of looking at it. But if the end of this movie was, what's that? A movie came out a couple of years ago where that's literally the plot is this guy running.
Forrest Gump.
No. Recently.
That's it. No, that's the movie. That's right. Move on.
No. But even Forrest Gump, like, even that's, his special talent. And it's like a good arc you can have in the movie of he's an Olympian, he's in the war, he's lost his purpose. What's my purpose? And then he's saving people. We don't really get any of that. But you're also penned in the characters that you can have where you have Domhnall Gleeson, is it? It's not Brendan Gleeson, it's the other one. He's excellent generally. I really like him in almost everything, but you've penned him in so that you have to write him out of the movie halfway through it, because in the story he goes to a different prison camp, and that's like not the movie doesn't use it as like oh my god, my friend's gone. Really, it's just a thing that's happening, and that is kind of at the core of what's wrong with this movie. Is they're doing things are happening largely because like the script says so, or real life says so, and you could have made it more engaging by perhaps being a bit looser with the adaptation.
For me, I think because everything you guys are saying is absolutely spot on. There's one of the reasons. It's part of the reasons I was like, "Oh, I've made a grave error here." Not in picking the movie, but like be fucking arrogantly saying, "You guys are gonna love this." Oh, I fucked this one.
I do love that when you declare that we're gonna love a movie, and then obviously already I'm
not ready to. I'm not ready to.
You're not ready to say either way yet.
No. I enjoyed this.
But watching this, and again, I can't help myself because I'm going to say like what was missing for me. But I just helped with the way it was laid out, and because of like he seemed like a kind of a blank canvas in a way. It could be like for the viewer to sort of go, God, imagine going through that. Imagine me going through that sort of thing. But like, what could have done really well because it's on this true story. You know what would have been really good? A voiceover, just a narrative voiceover. As far as back guys can remember, I always knew I wanted to be in a world war.
I always knew I want to be tortured by a Japanese.
But what you're saying, Ross, is a bit of characterization would have been nice on the raft section.
Because then you can still have.
I legitimately forgot which one was the main guy.
Yeah,
I legitimately did not know who the main character was.
The other guy with the black hair.
In a movie,
he was handsome.
That
as
in
hell,
a movie.
yeah.
That's a problem. That is a problem in your movie. If I no longer know which character is the character I'm watching.
After 45 minutes, at least 45
minutes.
That I actually had the exact thought, and didn't take, to be honest, like I did after like a minute or so, I did remember, but I was like, because there's a guy who's doing all the talking, and there's a guy who's silent, who's like really so shocked or whatever.
The guy who dies towards the end of it,
No, that was also Gleeson. He's fine
because
because he's got a different color hair. Because obviously me and Dave have some weird face blindness. But the other, they just look the same. They just look that kind of black hair and 1940s.
I think it's the makeup. It's the sunburn makeup and the hair and the facial hair. They all look, and that's obviously part of it. But the characterization is so minimal that literally when they roll that body off thing, I was like, did the main character just die?
Yeah,
like genuinely was my thought.
Yeah. I think this is a performance problem. Usually, I'm quite hesitant to blame actors because I think that there's so much responsibility on the director to be able to make sure what they want is right. This is directed by Angelina Jolie as well. We can talk about that, but I think this is a performance problem. I think the guy, whatever his name is just not giving. He's gone down the wrong route, and I don't know if he'd met Zamperini, Jack O'Connell, his name, or I don't know if it's just maybe it is the direction, but there's just something missing there. There's like a likability or something that you just can't connect. He seems very austere, and I know that's because he's he's got the shit kicked out of him for all of his life, and then he goes and he gets it really kicked out of him when he's in Japan. But you just think if you're going to make a movie, I think you maybe need to bring someone who's a little bit more either well known or someone who can just elevate a movie,
Command
because
the room.
there's so much of the screen time is just him and the prison guard, who I think is brilliant performance.
He's incredible.
Like, really,
he's doing an over the top performance. The same reason that
I don't think it's over the
like
top.
Gleeson more. No, in a good way. Like he's doing like
it's melodramatic. It's melodramatic in that, like, it's over-egged, and I think when you have, there's actually a review that says, your film's great until the last scene where he's lifting the thing up over his head, and the prison guard
don't look at me.
The prison guard is basically having a meltdown, and because he's been quote unquote beaten or whatever. But like, there's a review that says the movie's great, the movie's fine up until that point, but then you have the antagonist steal the thunder basically because of this great performance, and this guy, the main guy, I just don't think he's bringing enough. No, and it's just weird.
You need a leading man, don't you? And that isn't even about. That's more about the intangibles of being an actor. Like, I'm sure this guy is a fine actor. He's been in stuff. I'm sure he's okay. But like, you kind of need. Not everyone needs to be Daniel Day-Lewis, I will stress. But like, you need somebody who's going to bring some individuality and something like
a signature
noteworthy. Someone who's got like a personal charisma about them. Someone that I won't, for long stretches of this movie, forget which one of them he is.
Exactly, which is so weird, isn't it?
The fact that you did it as well, Sam, I think is really, really telling. Because again, you enjoyed this way more than I did.
Yeah. Can I talk? So can I go into why I enjoyed, especially the start of this movie?
Everyone, tune your radios to Sam's World War II cast.
It's welcome to Aviation Hour. It's I liked.
Now over there, Captain Sam.
Loose lips, sink ship.
Take us away, Sam.
Jordan.
Brought to you by Simpsons Canned Meat. It's meat in a can. I'm a big aviation nerd, and I think there's points in this movie I was like, well done, movie. When they had you see it in the first bit when they're going to go bomb, one of the Pacific Islands, whatever it is, and they're looking through the site. You see that, and I was straight away, I saw it. You don't even see it in full frame. I was like, Norden bomb site. That is a Norden bomb site. Fantastic, well done, movie. You got that right.
Nerd.
There's a great book by Malcolm Gladwell called The Bomber Mafia, which basically explains why the Norden bomb site was going to be this amazing revolution. That we didn't need to carpet bomb entire countries. We could just bomb the one bridge that goes to the nail factory, which means they can't make nails, which means they can't put nails in boots, which means the soldiers haven't got boots. It's a great book. Look it up. Ross, I can see your face. Look it up. It's good. Anyway, and then the movie.
Have a passion, Sam.
And then the movie's a really cool aviation movie. We get some great action in the plane. It really underlines to me how fucking terrifying war would be. Like, I'm scared of the sea because I think, but even more now, I'm like scared of being in a bomber, in a World War II bomber. Not that that's a realistic prospect for me, but
because I'm also terrified of the sea.
Yes,
I'm also terrified of the sea. We live on a fucking island. Quite a big island, to be fair, but like
we've been conditioned to just stay where we are.
We live in the middle of the island.
No, you fucking haven't, Englishman. All right. If anything, for some reason, you have this innate fucking belief that you can go wherever the fuck you want. Sorry,
I certainly don't.
That's the inner Republican.
That's
got a little hot. Got a little hot.
And then the movie's like, there's a couple of it. Like when they crash the plane, there was a bit where I'm like, yeah, but okay, your engine's gone, fine. I mean, a plane can go with one engine, no problem. Even an old, like, it's fine. And then when the bit when they say we have no flaps, and it's like, I mean, it's not great, but if you all you have to do is just lean back, just let the plane stall itself. So there's the small bits where you just like, come on. But I think it's a great representation of like, this is the terrifyingness of being a World War II bomber. And you think some of these bombing units came home like 50% attrition rate, like huge losses of life and machinery to do what they were trying to do. And I think it's a cool representation of that. And then the movie stops
done as well. Actually,
because
even on top of being cool, I think it's the more engaging part of the film where you've got the machinations of how the plane works and they're all talking to each other. And like, I agree with you, Sam. that's kind of the movie I wanted. I wanted like a flying movie, and we're bombing.
Yeah. And you
Not
can
that I'm
follow it.
massively into bombing random parts of Japan and Pacific Islands, but it's a cool like visualization of that. I like the crew working. I love like half the crew getting killed, and then they're in this jeep and they're like, "We got some new guys," and we're like, "Great, fantastic." All of that was like, "Wow, war is horrible, but okay, let's do war, fantastic." Unfortunately, the movie then decided that we should no longer do war, and we move on to the brass.
We're stuck in a camp. Yeah,
I'm just struggling to get the picture of like Sam out of my mind, like Sam at a museum, and there's people like sort of reading on these things and sort of reflecting on all the death. Sam comes in. You know the Norden bomb site. You know this is a really cool thing. Let me. No, stay right there. Come back. Stay with me. Let me tell you about this bomb site.
Well, luckily, I don't have to go to museums to do that. I can subject you guys.
Hey, I'm more than happy. I'm not a Luddite like Ross, who is allergic to learning about.
Well, here we go then. Let me tell you what.
I'm excited to learn about the Norden bomb site.
Let me tell you one.
Listen, learn something.
One more story.
God, Ross.
One more story from the Malcolm Gladwell book. It's really funny, actually. So they had the Pacific Islands, and I think I can't remember the name of it. There's one anyway that they eventually captured just off the south of Japan, and the Americans could then fly to Japan. It was exactly the distance they needed for the planes they had to get there and back on a fuel tank, and they could bomb a little bit, and then come back. Before that, they had to fly from India. They had to land in this one little strip of runway that they had in China. And they managed to hold it, and then they fly from China to Japan, where they had enough to be there for like 15 minutes. It would take hours. They would literally fly over the Himalayas to get to Japan, to bomb it for 20 minutes and then fly back. And in this place in China didn't have any fuel. So for every 12 gallons of fuel that they took, only 1 gallon ended up taking them to Japan. So they basically had to,
they were having to fly all of the fuel in.
Fly the fuel in to a factor of 12 to 1 of actual usable, operational fuel over the Himalayas. So it's absolutely, and then they were trying to bomb specific targets. Long story short, it didn't work, and so that's why they carpet bombed and nuked all of Japan. It was quite horrible, really. In the long term, yes, that's what we do now. We just blow up bridges rather than decimating entire
carpet bomb Cambodia just for shits and gigs.
Yeah. So I think this part of the movie, this is where, as you can tell, I'm enthused. I'm like, yes, this is brilliant. This is great. This is really exciting. And then when you see that in the context of some of the flashbacks, I thought worked well, understanding who this guy is. But the problem is that once all of that goes away, and once he says, "Tell us about the Norden bomb site," because they want to learn about that. But then, the movie's not really interested even telling that story. If it had told the 12 liters of fuel for every 1 liter, at least there'd be an interesting story there. And then it becomes just very, very insular. And this is maybe where your point, Dave, of okay, now we need some standout performances.
Let's just whip this guy for another 45 minutes. Yeah. That'll get us an Oscar, right?
And it does feel like that, doesn't it? It does feel like we're going to get.
I should be clear. I'm not trying to be squeamish at all or anything like that.
No, sure.
It's not any, because I don't even think it's particularly graphic, particularly violent.
It needs to be earned,
I think the internment camp could be way filthier, like Japanese internment camps definitely were, and way more you know what I mean? Just people like martial justice and stuff like that. I actually think it's quite sanitized. But what I mean is that there's no inherent point to this. I know there's the bit where he holds the bit of wood up and the guy's really impressed and sad and everything, but ultimately not really telling a story so much as he moves from place to place, he gets bullied a bit, but not really. The punching scene was one of the worst choreographed little scenes I've ever seen. When you go up to punch someone, I've never punched anyone in a Japanese internment camp, just to be clear, under threat of death.
Not sober anyway.
They go up. This guy's kneeling down. They go up. Every single shot of a soldier doing this, they go up. He crouches down. He puts his arms up like he's fucking fighting in 1815.
Yeah.
A gentleman's fight. And he does this and he hits him. And I'm like, how is who thought that was how this would happen anyway?
Angelina Jolie.
Like,
that's it.
But it all just seems to be like so much nothing.
Yeah,
like, I didn't finish any. I liked up to the raft stuff. I was kind of interested. I liked it. I thought it was telling like a wow, surviving on this raft. This is really cool.
Yeah.
And then I paused it, and it was like 11:30, and it was like an hour left, and I was like, an hour. And this is when they're rescued.
Because you think that's the movie. You think like not necessarily that, you know, like I in my head I was thinking, right, they're going to get rescued. They're going to get picked up by the Japanese, and it's going to be bad. But you know, like, but it just wasn't. I don't know. I think a lot of this is about setting your expectations as well, and that's maybe where a voiceover might have helped. It maybe where you could have, because I don't generally think voiceovers are very useful in movies, but if you want to meander through a little bit, and if you just want a bit of a show portion of your movie where you're setting a scene, it's quite slow sometimes, isn't it, this film? It's quite kind of like ponderous, and I sometimes really like that, but you kind of need something to give you context, and that's maybe where a voiceover would help to say, you know, even if he's explaining it to a grandson or something, like just something
because
to characterize.
And anyway, that's what I'm saying. So like a voiceover wouldn't spoil it, but like you were saying, Sam, and like I said earlier, but it would let you go, okay, this guy is now feeling this, because you're not getting that from, I would say, 90% of his performance.
From the performance, yeah.
Was there a scene that you guys sort of quite liked or sort of stood out to you in a positive way?
Well, we talked about the plane scenes at the beginning. I liked a lot of the raft stuff. I did, you know, the killing the shark and eating it, and then, you know, the joking around, and I liked a lot of that. I thought the strafing run by the Japanese plane was perhaps overdone slightly. Like one run and they jump off and the thing's full of holes, and like, wow, that was really horrible.
That was close.
Comes around again, and I'm like, right, we're having our cake and fucking it too now, please. Like, I can get by that, but not one of these guys got hit by a bullet on either of these runs, despite the fact the raft got fucking shot to shit,
riddled with holes.
But maybe that really happened. Like, I haven't read the book. I'd be interested actually though to read the book about this. But what we did a film recently where it was based on a book, didn't we? And I can't remember what it is, but
BFG.
I think was it BFG? I think it was BFG. But what did we say? We did
BFG and we did John Carter. Were both adaptations from a book.
Yeah. Well, but what was the criticism though of, and I think we've had this before. I'm trying to find what episode it was. Is that if you stick too closely to a subject matter, you end up, I think, really damaging the movie. And I think this is maybe one where because they've got this structure that's in the book, and they've got tales where they strafed us twice and no one got hit, which is fine. It's fine. Obviously, if that happened, that happened.
By a shark. They really fucking cock teasers with that.
Yeah,
like the shark swimming around. I was like, and no one even got their leg bitten off by a shark.
But you can imagine that being a line in the book, can't you? That, you know, we're swarming with sharks, and so they're like brilliant sharks. We're going to put that into
punched them, knocked them out.
The worst example of this, is the fact that we don't see Gleason's character again. Now, clearly, they were in different camps. Clearly, they didn't meet until they came back to America or whatever. But I just think, if you think about it, just from a structural storytelling point of view, about like what's that great perfect movie thing, Dave? You set up, you pay off everything.
Perfect movie pays off everything that it sets up.
Yeah, so that's a great thing from a.
So Gleason's character would be something this movie sets up as a character. We like him. We're interested in him. Like he's got pathos. Like great performance, and then he's just out of the movie, and that's like a real like. We need some sort of closure there.
And
even if it's like even if it could be like they get home and they see each other and they embrace or they just start crying or whatever.
Which clearly didn't happen.
That would be something, wouldn't it?
Otherwise, they would show it. But they were sticking too closely to the source material, presumably. And if they did meet and they didn't show it, then Christ Almighty, what are you doing, movie? But I just think like there's just too much. There's too much of that where I think, God damn it, just tell a story. Just tell, it's okay. Just tell a story.
part of that as well, and part of the issue with biopics generally too, is this fucking guy didn't die until like 2 months before this movie came out.
Yeah.
Fucking World War
Jesus
II
Christ,
veteran,
that's a bit of a
lived
harsh
forever.
criticism, Dave.
No, hear me out here.
How dare he not die a noble
if
death?
you read a bit
Couldn't have
about,
waited
if you
4
read,
months,
if you read a
dickhead.
bit about this guy's life, it is really interesting because obviously, like, the war ended in 1945, and you know, he had 70 years or whatever after the war ended. He had a really interesting life, and we get the footage of the end of him running in the Tokyo Olympics in 2003, I think,
1998.
1998. So not at all what I said. But you have the footage there. But like, you read a bit about his life, and he came home and he had PTSD from the camps and from the raft.
Yeah.
He got divorced after he started having night terrors, and he tried to strangle his wife in his sleep. Because he was suffering so badly, he became an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And then, he found God and he became an evangelical, which, I'm less interested in. But still, there is a real journey for this guy when you take it as a whole. When you take it as just the story of his war experience, kind of with some of the running backstory, just the running backstory folded in, it's not a satisfying story about this guy, conquering anything. It's kind of the story of this guy having a pretty shitty time of it during the war and then not dying at the end. And that's kind of like the only story and I mean that in the best way possible. And part of that, and we have a line on the raft where he says to God, "I promise God, I'll dedicate my whole life to you if you save me."
That felt like such a throwaway line as well. Yeah.
It didn't. Apparently, the guy whose name I'll look up in a minute, whatever it's this guy,
Sam
Perini. They did
actor or
about
the
this
person?
movie. The person, the actual guy. So because he was still alive when they were making this, they consulted him a little bit. I don't think massively, but I think he was very clear that he didn't want this movie to be about his religion.
Right.
Presumably because he's one of these rare Christians who doesn't feel that it's his job to enforce Christianity on other people. But so that's kind of why the movie doesn't have any of that. And I'm really trying to walk around this, but I don't think I'd have liked this movie more if there was a religious aspect to him finding God at the end.
Yeah, that's fair.
I do think it would have been a better movie if that had been the case. Does that make sense?
Well, if you're taking out a massive element of what seemingly is his personality, then maybe that explains why the lack of personality.
Yeah, maybe. It's just the capstone of his story is, and then he found God and he did all of this philanthropic stuff and helped a lot of people. And he turned, what could have been the great tragedy of his life, and it could have ruined his life, and he could have died an alcoholic and all this, and turned that into positive and went out and helped people and preached and all of that, which there really is some basis to that being a good thing and a decent end to his story. But because the movie doesn't obviously get there, and because I think he'd said, I don't really want any of that in the movie, and because he was alive, they had to respect that. It kind of just, you need something. You need a cherry at the end of this movie to be like, we did it, because it's not even we beat the Japanese. That isn't even the story at the end of this movie.
He gets
kind
home, I suppose.
From listening to you talk, Dave, about how he came back, struggled with got married, struggled with alcoholism, became born again Christian, etc. And like I said at the start, this could have been good as a short series, 6 episodes and then done like Band of Brothers. And just listen to you, the things you described, Dave. It suits itself more to that format. Episode about the flying, episode about the raft, episode about the jungle camp, episode about the POW camp, and then episode then about the sort of epilogue style. What comes after the war?
There's a story to be told there.
Yeah. His marriage. You know what I mean? The collapse. The PTSD. Alcoholism. That's stuff that would sort of engage people. Of course, you need the personality as well, but one problem at a time. But just that sort of thing there, you've easily got 5-6 episodes that you could make a whole complete story from that, and I suppose give each segment the time it's due.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it just all feels quite hollow.
And that's.
I didn't hate this like I'm making out. I hated it.
No, but
we've done worse movies, and we've done worse movies.
It's fair.
Recently, it was just bang average. And
but look at Rotten Tomatoes, 52% Rotten Tomatoes score. So I think it really does demonstrate exactly what we're saying, which is this is an average movie. And it's as you say, Ross, it makes it quite difficult to talk about. It makes it quite difficult to get animated and say, God, this is absolutely outrageous, or oh, I love this. Like there's no extremes, and I think that reflects some of that reflects the choices. It reflects the choices to not be as bold, because either you're sticking to the source material or you're being respectful of this guy's life, which of course is right, but at the same time, number one, you tell a story. You tell a story. You don't be boring. You tell a story. And I think this film isn't boring necessarily, but I think what for me, the problem for me is it leaves a heck of a lot on the table for you to have to figure out. Like, we've already mentioned Gleason's character. We've already mentioned the fact that the main character isn't really the performance isn't there for us to really be able to understand them. I mean, he doesn't break down at any point. Like he doesn't break down in tears and scream and shout for his mom. He doesn't do any of the things.
Well, I mean, to be fair now, so I know you're on a roll here, Sam, but just to interrupt you on this point, this is what I was getting at when I asked, like, was there any scene that stood out? Because for me, there was a point, and it's something, you were getting something, and it was when near the end of the sort of the jungle POW scene, when they've been asked to kneel, and basically, and you can tell this is where you're getting something from him, and both of them think this is it now, because he'd been told like 5 minutes earlier that the Marines Zamperini was asking about, the guard just basically coldly said they were beheaded, and then 5 minutes later they're asked to kneel down, and you see him then just begin to weep, and that's, for me, I felt like, okay, this is the toll it's taken on this guy now. He's been in war, he's been stranded for nearly 2 months at sea. They've been pulled ashore only to be beheaded, and this is it now. It's coming to a close. And for the weeping, you got something there of, something human.
It's a very good point. I've forgotten about that. And actually, that scene is, I think, probably my favorite scene of the movie. I think it's really well directed. There's a point where they show the
katana,
the guard with his sword, just his samurai sword, just pulled out of the scabbard, just sheath. And you think, oh, okay, so this is it. And it's a great. And then when they wash him, and they also cut that scene really quick out, which I love. They wash him, you see the relief, and that's it. It's done. I thought that's really nice. Like, but that's
a pretty good scene.
That's the
but
first
not followed up well.
But it's the first half.
You can almost imagine like that scene would be followed by him being, broken by these Japanese people, and so that he sees the guard and he cringes, and maybe that could be a story about him holding this bit of wood up at the end as like a no, fuck you, I'm still a human person. But you kind of need to have the low point there. I did want to talk about, unless you guys have more on this, like the visuals just for a minute. Like the actual filmmaking for a second, Dave's filmmaking corner. Because you reminded me of it when we were talking about this scene, which obviously has the effects shot, because obviously they didn't make Gleason and this guy lose 45 pounds each.
That's incredible. I mean, Christian Bale could have done it in a weekend, but still, it's incredible.
I know, Christian Bale just eats one less cheeseburger, and that's that's it, job done. But it's like a body replacement shot, and I don't think they nail it. Like, I think it's okay, and obviously it's effective. I just don't think they quite nail that sort of like that neck down shot. It's a bit like, do you remember that Captain America film where Chris Evans is really skinny, and it's his face on someone who's 5'2"'s body, and it doesn't quite like. Quite
Are we sure that he didn't lose weight? Are we sure that we didn't lose weight?
I'm not certain, but
I think there is some stuff online saying that he lost 22.
That's a lot of weight to have lost.
22 pounds. I don't know how much that is.
Wow.
I think they definitely would have added to it, wouldn't they? Digitally, you would have thought.
But a stone and a half.
Yeah, it's enhanced digitally. But
yeah. I think
it just looks a bit wonky.
And I think there's quite a look. I think it goes to the point of this movie of being like, there's not really that great. There isn't really a lot to look at, is there? Which is odd for a film that is like visually, you'd think would be quite interesting. Again, the first half of the movie, brilliant. We've got the plane, we've got all this, And then even when we're at the POW camp, it's all a bit like static and stale.
Sanitized. It's sanitized.
It doesn't
Everything's
really...
very clean. Everything's very clean. Everything's very orderly. Everything looks like a set, to be honest. After we leave the jungle, especially, everything kind of looks like we ran out of money, and especially the first POW camp. There's not anything to look at all in any of these scenes. We have that second soldier coming, actually, who is an actor I recognize the voice of when they're in the back of the truck. And I was like, oh, cool, we're going to get like another buddy.
Him. Yes, I know who you're on about.
It's not important. John Magaro, who's been in other stuff. And I thought, he's a good character actor. I like seeing him in stuff. Like, are we going to get like another buddy? He's a bit of a wisecracker. And he just isn't really in the movie. And it's like,
he's a narrator, isn't he? He's a narrator. He's an exposition bot, is what he is.
I would fucking love some exposition in this movie. Have some at the beginning about how many of these planes go down. Like, just have us, one of the characters go, there's only a 40% chance of us returning from any given mission, or like some, a bit of like fucking world stuff, or only fucking 1 in 15 people who are downed at sea are ever rescued, or do you know what I mean? Give me some statistics, make it feel really horrible. Or at the end, be like, this is there's such and such camp, the highest mortality rate in the whole of the country, and you're like, we get nothing.
There was some criticism of this movie from, it says on Wikipedia, from like conservative Japanese folks, and I think watching through this, I don't know, because obviously the Japanese, just like all countries did not treat their prisoners of war well, and Japanese did some pretty horrible shit. Like, there's lots of like testing and lots of horrible stuff. But again, so did lots of other countries, and the Americans interned loads of innocent Japanese people who just happened to be in Japan, in America.
So Japanese.
I'm not.
You're guilty of being Japanese.
Yeah, exactly. But these guys were soldiers. I do think there is something to this, though. I don't know if it's necessarily like overtly racist, but I think there is something to like how maniacal they make some of the portrayal, and I think it feels very, I think maybe xenophobic, maybe, and not necessarily like. I don't think it's about I think it's more about American exceptionalism. Hold on 2 seconds. Let me just finish. I think it's about American exceptionalism. That's more the criticism for me. It's about how great and stoic the Americans are, and they stood up against the
tyranny,
the tyranny and the brutality of the Japanese. And I think, I'm not sure either way, but I think it's definitely, there's something off though about that.
I mean, Watanabe's character certainly tips the scales in that. I mean, as a white guy, I probably don't have much say in it.
Yeah, welcome to 3 white guys.
Yeah, again. But other than Watanabe, the bird, I wasn't getting that there was that much overt racism. I was thinking like, oh, prison guards are going to prison guard. You're going to get the shit knocked out of you. Maybe. You're a prisoner of war, baby. But there was one that stood out other than the bird, and that was the general. And this was in the jungle POW scene, where basically he didn't even deign to look at him. Now, and again, but I don't know if that's like a Japanese culture thing where he's viewed as lower. But again, I'm not exposed to this culture enough to know if that's accurate, or if it is, like you say, Sam, a little bit xenophobic.
Yeah, not sure.
It feels to me more like what it is, which is that this guy had these experiences during the war that are tainted by the fact that this was the enemy. Like, when it comes down to it, like, you were fighting a war, and these were the people that were killing your buddies. And I think that, like, I agree with Sam, I think
you had a narrator,
American exceptionalism, because that's what you're fucking told as a soldier. So you get back home and you talk about it, and eventually this book gets written about it, and it's all tinged by this. They aren't people; they're the enemy. They're the invader, whatever. And I think that, I don't think the movie's that bad. I certainly didn't feel uncomfortable watching it at all.
No.
If every guard had been like the bird, maybe it would have been a bit like, well, what are we trying to say here, movie? But that one character being maniacal was not enough for me to sort of take it as, do you know what I mean? As overt as that. I think it's all just tinged by this propaganda machine and obviously the way this guy feels. And again, the way they obviously felt that they couldn't deviate too much from the actual source material.
Totally. So that's, I think that.
And also, is this the director? Is this like an early? I don't. Is Angelina Jolie directed a lot of stuff?
Not sure.
I think it's her first movie, isn't it?
And maybe part of it is that as well. Like, you don't have the confidence as a director to sort of say, right, well, let's shit on this guy's legacy or what? Not that, but do you know what I mean? Like, to be perceived to be doing so. So you kind of have to maybe take some of the producers, have a lot more control, because also, like, you're a first-time director and you're a woman in Hollywood, so maybe like you don't have the same level of control or experience or confidence that maybe a different director would have had to go out and say, let's do X, Y, and Z to make the movie better.
I don't think it's confidence. If you then go on to be like a UN fucking ambassador from being an actor, I don't think confidence is your issue.
Yeah, this is her third
competence. You know what I mean?
This is her third film that she directed, and you know, obviously she's experienced.
What were the other two?
The first one was a documentary called Place in Time, and the next one was In the Land of Blood and Honey, a drama war film. It's background of the Bosnian War, so that'll be cheery.
Fucking hell, Angelina Jolie, who's never appeared in a war movie, but somehow is like, yeah, I'll direct a war movie. It's fantastic.
So I think that point about the sticking to the source material. I do think though, just to finish on the point of the portrayal, I think it's a little bit too cartoonish for me. Watanabe is a little bit too like he's a bit.
Enjoy it though. I did enjoy it.
Totally. I think performance is great.
I like the performance.
I think in the context of the movie, though, he is up here. He is broad.
he arrived. He fucking arrived.
And everyone else, and I know they're sullen because they're like getting the kick. I keep saying that, getting the kick shit out of them, getting the shit kicked out of them. But I think you maybe just that over portrayal from Watanabe. I just think it's a little bit like, oh, could we not just try again? Contextualize this. Now, this goes to my... Go on, Dave.
It would have been nice to have other guards as characters, like...
humanized,
honestly,
a little bit.
Because, the last portion of this movie, once Gleason's out of it, you only really have two actors in the movie. Everyone else may as well be a background extra, because nobody has to do anything. We don't really get any names. No one's been characterized. It would have been nice to have, like... We get some, Ross. Like, we do get some. I like coming in a second.
Yes,
but, like,
yes.
It would have been nice to have maybe like just some other guards, and like even if they're subtitled, even if they're not speaking English, like you can act without like twirling your mustache and beat the shit out of this guy. Like maybe being like before he's the commandant, like, hey guy, let's not just focus on this one guy and beat the living shit out of him. Maybe let's orders are orders or whatever. You can express that in body language and be like, hey, enough is enough. Let's not kill this guy. And we don't really get any of that.
It did make me laugh when he turned up again at the next camp. Like I was like, what? Like fucking hell, what is the fucking chances of that? Like that was, I thought, oh, did he plan that? Did he know that the entire time?
Yeah. I think that's the implication, isn't it? Except that our main character is not emoting enough for us to really understand that. Because he should be elated, he should be happy that this guy's fucking off. And then he turns it up and this guy's like, hey, buddy. And that would have been, again, a really funny but like upsetting scene for this character. But I don't think the actor is doing enough to sell any of that.
Which is a rare criticism for us, I think, to really pinpoint one actor and say, you're not good enough in this movie.
I feel like I do it all the time.
Ross, you had a point.
No, Dave sort of conceded that you do get a little humanization from the guards. It's shown that like when the bird is absolutely knocking shit out of Zamperini, you do see the guards sort of like show a little bit of restraint or reserve, like at the sheer beating he is getting. So you do get a little humanization there, but Dave is absolutely spot on. Like it's nowhere near enough.
And I'm not saying you need like 3 other named Japanese prison guards, but like maybe even just a couple of guys who we see in a few shots.
Maybe just the bird sort of chastising him for being too lenient, something like that.
Well, the lieutenant is that's a pretty well-worn character role, isn't it? Of like someone who maybe is he's a bit disgusted by Watanabe's tactics, but he follows the rules because
you've got
and at
too
the
much
end,
zeal. Like, we can't be killing these guys. There are rules of war.
Yeah, he does something to show that he's, he tries to atone slightly by giving someone a drink or whatever else. Yeah. So in my conclusive thoughts, right, on this movie is that I love the idea of it. I love the idea of it because it's right up my alley, and it's perfectly pitched. War movie and planes and like all the history. And do you want another story about the bomber mafia, Ross? I've got loads.
Let's have it. Go for it.
No, it's fine. But what I wanted, I basically just wanted a documentary about this guy's life, and I think a documentary about this guy's life and the context surrounding it would have been fascinating and would have been great, and we would have actually got to, not through like these staged scenes that we see in this movie, we would actually got to explore what's happened to him, and it would have been contextualized properly for us, because you would have had a narrator who says, and in 1944, towards the end of the war, Japan was really going for it, and so here's what the Americans did: they bombed the shit out. One such bomber was Louis Zamperini, and like, you would have got the context. I think this movie is sorely lacking because of a lack of characterization and a lack of ability to really understand what's going on. I think it's a shame, really, that this film isn't as interesting as it should be, because it's a fascinating story. Clearly,
that's
mired by poor filmmaking.
Not as interesting as it should have been. That's it in one.
Which is weird. It's a weird one. It's a weird one for us, I think.
It's
hard
movie.
to pull off.
I would be really impressed if in 3 weeks I remember the name of this movie or anything about it. And I don't mean that as like a massive put down. I just, of all the movies we've done, this has made very little impression on me. And also out the window is our Gone in 90 Minutes and like people throwing pies. This could not be any further from being 90 minutes long or funny.
Again, it goes to show like the effect of watching like a movie in a cinema. Like, how many movies out there like do we think are good, but are only good because we watched it in the cinema in a position where your attention is locked in? You can't take out your phone when you're bored. You have to pay attention. You don't have endless popcorn and sugary drinks.
It's tough, isn't it? Like, I saw I didn't see this in the cinema. I did see Hacksaw Ridge, which I mentioned earlier, which I knew wasn't good when I saw it, but it's not like I didn't enjoy the act of watching it, because it's a big war movie and I watched it in the cinema. Like, it's great, it's fine, good, fun, exciting time for me. But is it a good movie? Probably not. Those Hobbit movies as well, I saw 2 of those in the cinema, and while again I knew they weren't good, I did not enjoy watching them. Like you said, Ross, it's the magic of the cinema.
That's a problem. You should get yourself sorted out. That's just not. I don't need to be in a different building to think a movie's shit. Okay, I don't understand what some magical zeal.
Maybe you do, Sam. You know, maybe you need to go outside for a bit. You know,
I think, Sam, you are absolutely wrong. There is something magical about the cinema, and I do mean that. Like the big screen, the music. Shut your fucking face, Sam. Because guess what? Most of the world disagrees with you. You miserable.
I'll tell you what the other movie was. Shut up, Sam. I'll tell you what the other movie was, Dave. Brilliant. The Batman, because I watched that in the cinema. And I was like, oh, brilliant. And then we watched it for the episode you and I did that Sam fucking ditched us for. And I was like, I remember liking this a lot more.
Do you understand? Do you understand the point that you're making? You're telling me, right? You're telling me that the cinema is such a poor experience that you don't actually have a proper grasp of the movies that you're watching, because when you do get to watch them again, shut up. When you do get to watch them again, you're like, actually, that was shit. But just being in the magical world of the cinema has tricked you into thinking,
I'm not saying
that's not a good argument.
There is a
thing. I'm not trying to make
hang on, Dave, hang on. Sam, see, this is what you're actually proving a point for us, because you make it sound like it's an actual ridiculous thing, and it doesn't sound ridiculous. You go to the cinema, you go to a nice cinema as well. You go there, big comfy chairs that recline. You've got lovely, delicious, buttery, warm, sugary, salty popcorn.
Oh yeah, you've got
Yeah, but it's you. It's you doing that.
It's not me.
So
It's not me.
you're being
I do not eat in the
obnoxious.
cinema.
Sam. I've been on enough fucking chats, like playing video games with you, to hear. Sam, what are you eating? Fucking gravel.
No,
oh yeah, I'm just
not
eating
in
my
the
bag
cinema.
of fucking
Not in the
granola.
cinema, and this is the problem.
Well, doesn't
the
matter.
cinema's full of people.
Anyway, I go back to my point. You're in these lovely, comfy chairs. It's dark. The cinema comes up.
Do you want any more sound effects? I've got loads of them.
It's just,
Listen,
I think it's just those two.
It's great. It's great. Obviously, really important, like very good arguments that you're making, Sam, by just clouding the microphone with noise. Honestly, really, really clever. You obviously went to the fucking Donald Trump school of debating.
Hey, that's called Foley.
But the cinema does elevate. Obviously, not for you because you fucking hate the cinema, and I accept that. I really do. I'm not trying to convince you to go to the cinema. I'm making a point that a good cinema experience elevates the movie. I'm not saying it's going to make a shit movie great, but it makes a good movie seem better than it is. Or a movie like this, which is fairly average, probably seem pretty good if you saw it at the cinema. It elevates it. I think that's a valid point, other than you saying, no, it's full of fucking people. No one likes the cinema. And yes, statistically, economically, you're right. Very few people like the cinema, but
that's why they're dying.
But they still exist. And there's a reason for that.
Coming for your cinema. You're next.
There's something about the bombastic nature.
Okay.
I don't have like a fucking home cinema setup. I don't have speakers lined around the walls or, a 50 million inch TV, right? So going to the cinema, I can go and enjoy a movie with like an absolutely like a loud, bombastic movie like this, like the sounds where I can't do that at 11 o'clock at night in my house. It's
like we saw the guys cinema, Dave, if you remember. And like we did an episode on that movie. It was great, wasn't it? It was great, and it was and because it's like you said, it's a bombastic sort of thing, something you can enjoy with your friends, in your comfy chairs and your sugary drinks. Sam missed the opportunity for the sound effects, and you're just enjoying yourself.
Other people, you're laughing, they're laughing. There is like a communal air to that. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying I want to go out and do it every fucking day of my life, but it is fun.
All right. Well, go buy shares in the cinema, and then you can.
I don't have shares money, Sam. I'm the poorest person you know.
Listen to Sam talks as if he's scoring massive points. Well, you go and enjoy yourself like a dweeb. No.
Well, it's his typical thing, Ross, where he's like, it's not even okay for Sam to make his point. He has to be right. He has to win. He has to prove us wrong. Even though I'm saying it's fine for you to feel differently, Sam. It's fine. It's okay. It's okay, Sam. It's all right. No.
Plop. Got myself a Dave. Look at the size of this one, boy.
You fucking freak, Sam.
Just can't we have a conversation without Sam being the biggest prick in the room and the world?
Come on, Dave.
Obviously not.
Right, I apologize. You are perfectly right about everything. Your opinions on the cinema are valid, important.
Take it and run.
And noble, in fact.
Yeah, and where's my apology?
Ross, I'm also sorry.
That's it. Wonderful. That's all I needed. Thank you.
See, Ross plays the game. He knows. He doesn't take it so personally.
Sam knows if he'd have went on to go, I'm sorry for blah, blah, blah. No, Sam, just the apology. I don't need anything else. Thank you. That's it. Thanks.
And I'm not sorry. I'm just saying it because
doesn't matter. You said the words.
And that's fine.
I just want to have an argumentative, real conversation every time we discuss anything. I want issues to be resolved,
Well, let's talk about discussion because I think we are entertaining, funny guys, and I think, listener, that you agree as well. Do you? Please
tell him he's wrong.
Please tell him he's wrong.
Well, imagine that you could talk to us and share your views with us on our brand new, and please don't.
Not in a public forum. Certainly not a public forum where a movie's playing because Sam will not be attending.
No, but the nearest digital
don't ruin
thing,
the bit. Come on.
which and thanks, Dave, just derailing the entire.
How dare he talk when I'm talking?
Join our Discord, all right? There we go. That's the bit.
Wow, wow. But you can, like Sam says, you can share your views and suggest movies to us and talk to us, the stars of the show. I mean, we're too big a movie star to actually like respond to you or acknowledge you, but you can be in the same space.
Thumbs up emoji. That's what you're going to
Yeah,
get. For us.
You might get an emoticon.
What I'm suggesting, guys, is that we have a WhatsApp channel, don't we? We have a WhatsApp channel where we talk about movies.
Don't invite them to that.
That's not fit for public consumption.
What I'm saying is that let's maybe move some of the some of it over to Discord, where we can basically give our fantastic views. Now, did you know, guys? Did you know that we have 80 people who follow this podcast on Spotify, and we get a huge amount of downloads from Spotify, which is
incredible,
slightly amazing. So,
how many of those are bots?
Probably all of them, but
0.
Bots, if you're listening,
0. That's how many. 0.
Join the Discord now. I don't know how the Discord fucking URL is ridiculous. So what I'm going to do is going to put it into the show notes of the episode going forward.
I'll get you a link, Sam. That'll work.
Good man. Because we basically want to create. There is people listening to this. It's not just us talking into the void as much as that may be what it seems.
About the podcast. I kind of like the idea that no one's listening to me. The tree falls in the forest. Is anyone there to hear David talk about Ocean's 11 for the 40,000th time?
Ocean's 11. Well, mate, I think that's a good point, but unfortunately, there are people listening, so I think we have to.
That link will not expire unless we change it.
Okay, right. So we have a link. I will put it in the show notes, and you'll be able to join us at any point to talk about whatever movie that we're talking about. So there we go. That's the end of the episode.
I'm actually excited to see now if people are going to join. I mean, I'll be heartbroken if no one joins.
Please don't make this pathetic.
But then we really will know how many bots
Please
are following us.
Please, just one person, and not someone we know. If you know us in real life,
Mum, put down the laptop. You don't know how to use Discord.
I love the idea of your mother listening to this podcast.
And then
I'm not sure you're going.
She wouldn't be able to understand what you two are saying. That's the problem.
I know, but she'd understand every word you were saying, Ross, and you're not getting invited for Christmas after that foul language.
Oh, well, to be fair, I did give out about English people, so yeah, I'm fine.
You're okay. Right, we'll be back next week, and you'll know what movie we're watching because you're in the Discord.
You'll be in the Discord.
Do it now.
That's how we hold you hostage.
Do it now.
Like, comment, subscribe in the Discord.
What's up, guys?
Nice. There we go. Let's end it there. Join the Discord.